episode has been brought to you by DiceyGoblin.com, online board game retailer, where every board game is an award-winning board. Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're doing the review of King of Tokyo for you. I haven't gotten the gameplay done yet. We're going to get that for you here in the near future. I would like to point out that King of Tokyo is available at DiceyGoblin.com, which is our sponsor. They have free shipping anywhere in the United States, so if you like what you see here, you don't have King of Tokyo yet, check them out. Maybe that's where you want to get it from. So, King of Tokyo. As you can see in the previous videos, it's a fairly simple dice rolling game. That's pretty much the only mechanic, with a little bit of, purchasing of the power cards and stuff like that. But even that is driven by the dice, because you got to roll the energy to get the energy cubes to buy the cards. So dice rolling is pretty much the entire mechanism for this game. I think it's a lot of fun most of the time. It's obviously not very deep. It's a very simple game, but that's not always a bad thing. There's definitely a place for that. There's definitely people that you want to play that sort of game with, groups, times that you want to play that sort of game. So where does that leave us? Well, let's start right off with originality. When you look at it, it's obvious. Well, let's see. You got Cyber Bunny, which I think is fairly original. You got Alienoid, which is an alien, but it doesn't draw from anywhere specific. But these three guys obviously come from very specific places. This is obviously King Kong, Godzilla, one of the things Godzilla fought at some point. And then the Kraken, it's a Kraken, and it's a pretty cool take on a Kraken. So as far as the monsters themselves, not terribly original, but they take their own direction in this game compared to the source material that they're drawing from for these guys. But then what about everything else in the game? The cards themselves, the artwork is really cool. I think there's all of them. Look at the camouflage card. That's a pretty neat one. I like that a lot. There's a lot of really cool artwork in the game. The powers, they really thought of a lot of neat things to do, so that every time a card comes out, most of the cards that come out, you're going to be looking at and thinking of them as a real possibility, depending on what your strategy is, of course. I like that there's two different ways to win the game: victory points or eliminating everybody. I don't know. In a lot of games, I think that you see either it's a style of game where you're fighting other people to eliminate them, or you're getting victory points. You don't have both as a possible option in a lot of games. Obviously, I'm sure there's examples of games where you do. Ultimately, I think the game is not terribly original. Even with the dice, the mechanism used for the dice is the Yahtzee mechanism that everybody seems to be using. And I think King of Tokyo might have been one of the first ones to do that. However, they're still using a mechanism it's called the Yahtzee mechanism because it comes from another game. So with that in mind, not a whole lot of originality, but there is enough here to where it's not awful in terms of score. I'm going to give it a 0.75 out of 2 for originality. It's just, it would have been cool to see some more original monsters, perhaps a couple of additional mechanisms in the game. But I still like what's here. It works very well for what the game is, but just not very original. So 0.75 out of 2. Moving on to aesthetics, however, while maybe the monsters aren't terribly original, they are really cool. This is King Kong with a cybernetic eye. And this one right here, which is my daughter's favorite, the Cyber Bunny, I think that's one of the coolest looking monsters in the game. I personally like the Kraken. All that looks awesome. Then you've got the board itself, which is Tokyo on fire, and I really like the board. They knew they didn't need much for a board, but they decided to give you something, and what they gave you is very cool looking. Even going back to the box itself, which has great artwork on the cover. I believe this is the artwork on the back of the box. The tokens are all nice looking here. They draw from the cards that they work with, because each of these tokens works with a specific card. But all the cards in the game, they all have very different artwork. I mean, the style is similar, but I mean, look at that. Who doesn't like a rabbit smoking a carrot? It's pretty awesome. I really like the aesthetics in the game, how it looks. The dice themselves look great, very simple, two-tone, and the icons on the dice are great. I don't know, there's just nothing I can think of to complain about in terms of aesthetics for this game. And if I can't think of anything to complain about, I've got to give it a 3 out of 3. It's great. The look of the game is fantastic. It is perfect for what this game is, which is a light, quick, high energy dice rolling game. So with that, we then move on to components, which is, with the components in the game, I know that this guy is frayed a little bit on his tail. Again, if you watched my previous video, I'm not sure, the components video, I'm not sure if that's because I got the game used, so I don't know if that's just it got handled roughly by the previous owner or if that's really what happens. But as I look at the other ones, the Kraken, Cyber Bunny, Alienoid, none of them have that same thing, so I think it might have just been, a fluke. All the rest of these guys are holding up really well. All the tokens are holding up really well. The cubes all are great. The dice, there's no wear and tear on the dice from what I've seen. The board itself is good. The cards, as I said in the components video, are nice and thick. I like that. And so I'm going to chalk this up to some sort of fluke. That I don't really know how it happened, obviously, but I'm going to chalk it up as just it's not the way the game normally handles. The monster boards themselves also are very nice, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 4 for components. I just can't. I don't see anything that shows consistently that there's an issue with the game. So I feel like Iello did a really good job putting these components together. I feel like they're going to stand the test of time in terms of wear and tear. So 4 out of 4 for components. Next up, thrill factor. Now this one's a little tricky because generally speaking, rolling dice is a high action type of mechanism. However, I will say that on occasion, the give and take of the game can, I don't know, it can be a lot of fun. Other times it feels like, let's just get this done. And that probably has something to do with the people you play with. I have enjoyed it for the most part. I think that having these cards to add your powers into what you're doing helps a lot with that. It's just sometimes it feels like since all you're doing really is rolling dice, it starts to get a little bit old, I guess, which is good that the game is only 30 minutes because any longer it would definitely wear out its welcome. But for what it is, 30 minutes is usually just about right, maybe sometimes a tad long. The most people I've played this game with is 5, and that one did feel like it went a little bit too long. But still, for the most part, thrill factor is pretty good. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 3, which is a good score. It's a good score. It's not it's not the best score possible, but 2 out of 3 is pretty good. That's what I'm going to give it. So and finally, that brings us to the gameplay itself. In a game that is obviously going to be so much luck-based because it's all dice rolling. Obviously, you have the Yahtzee mechanism in there to help mitigate the dice rolling a little bit. There are some cards here that can mitigate that as well. The gameplay for what this game is supposed to be is really good for the most part. I think that for some reason, the attack option might be a little bit overpowered compared to the victory point option. Now, it could be that the victory point way of winning the game is just more subtle, and I haven't quite figured out exactly how to get to it. But I hear a lot of people talking about attacking is the way to go. That's how you win the game. Is you get into Tokyo and just deal a bunch of damage, or you take monsters out one at a time that are in Tokyo. As many people that I've heard say attacking is the way to go, I tend to think that that is the better option for winning the game. I want to try some more possibilities as far as winning with victory points, but from what I've seen, I tend to agree that attacking is a little bit overpowered compared to the victory point option. So that kind of, even though you have the two options to win, the fact that one seems to be much better kind of takes away from it a little bit. Overall, though, the gameplay is still a lot of fun. It's generally a good time. I like the way it works most of the time. I just wish that somehow maybe instead of 20 victory points, you needed 18 or 15, or just bring that down a little bit so it's a little bit closer to what's going on with the damage. However, I'm going to give it a 3.1 out of 4 for gameplay because, like I said, it's a real light game. It's real simple, real fast. It only lasts 30 minutes or less most of the time. So, what are you going to do? I don't see how you can complain too much about the gameplay of a game like that, especially, again, this deck of cards I really feel is key to making the game very interesting and giving it replayability because of all the different options in here for how you can trick out your monster and how you can gain more victory points or deal more damage. 3.1 out of 4. What that brings us to overall is a 75.6% for King of Tokyo, which on my rubric means it's a good game. It's right solidly in the middle of the good scale from 70 to 79. I think it's, a lot of fun. I pretty much, anytime somebody had this option out there to play, I pretty much would take them up on it. I have not played King of New York, which I'm looking forward to getting to, but King of Tokyo is good for a quick game. You probably could get people who are not deep into gaming to play this one easy. I imagine I can probably get my mom to play this one, because it's not a whole lot to it. She's from the time she played a lot of Monopoly, that sort of stuff. Tons of dice rolling there, tons of dice rolling here, except in this case, there's a lot more things to add to it to keep things interesting. Overall, really good game. King of Tokyo. If you haven't played it, I suggest you at least play it. I think you should have it in your collection in order to have that fast option, that fast dice rolling option available that is easy to explain, easy to get started for just about anybody. Okay, so that's our review of King of Tokyo. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I'm on Twitter at boredonlineboardoffline. I'm on Board Game Blender every other week. I'm on Board Game Geek. Look me up any of those places. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.